Hi, my name is Paolo Hewitt, and for the first 18 years of my life, I was in the care system. Since then, I've watched many documentaries about care, and for me, they dwell too often on its darkest aspects. This podcast, But We All Shine On, has been set up as an antidote to that. It is a celebration of the human spirit. To start it, I thought it'd be a good idea for myself and my co-host Paul Anderson-Walsh to sit down at Dear Meaty's restaurant in Notting Hill and tell each other about how we came into care and how it affected us. The journey begins here.
Well, Paolo, it's great to be with you. How are you?
I'm good. Everything is hunky-dory, my friend, hunky-dory.
I'm very pleased to hear. Now, do you remember when we first came here?
That would have been couple of months after Des's funeral, right?
That most certainly was.
And yeah, do you know what I've always wondered? What is the proper name for what you did at that funeral? Because you were like, okay, now Paolo.
Oh, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Paolo's now going to tour. What do you call that?
Blagging it. Thank you very much.
But you did really well at that.
Thank you.
No, you did.
Thank
you did
you.
really well.
It's funny because it was a really strange. The whole resolve of that was kind of a bit. It was really interesting. Oh, the other way around. Yeah. Although I should have ordered that, right?
Yeah.
That looks really good.
You can take a pair.
I'm gonna steal his.
Give me mine.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I mean, the reality was I was officiating it. I was the sort of the sort of the in my kind of pastoral role. But it was actually really interesting because, gosh, when I think about officiating at Des's funeral, I mean, I don't know does any part of that sentence make any sense?
I know what you mean, because he was your foster brother.
Yeah, and that was the strange thing. So you would have also met Maureen, right? Which is my foster sister.
Yes.
So before you and Des came together and your stories come together, Des and I lived together in Addlestone in Surrey, and we lived there Des was the adopted child of this family called the Hurrians, and Maureen and I were two of the foster children, and they used to have lots and lots of them, but we were two of the foster children. Yeah. So literally our first meeting was when I would have been about 3 months old, and the very funny thing is the first conversation I had with Des, or what Des had with me wasn't with me, it was about me. The story goes that when I first arrived, I came in the night time in would have been April 1960. And I'd come up from the orphanage at Ladbroke Grove, and they brought me into this new foster home, which was going to be my permanent foster. So the plan was, I arrived there, and my sister Maureen, she was, do you remember when we were kids, do you remember we used to collect money for Biafra?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember those blue expandy boxes? Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Well, in the school that Maureen was at, what they'd said, which was our school, St Anne's, they'd said, if you fill 5 of these, we're going to send you a picture of the orphan that you've been looking at, you're sponsoring. So my sister was like so excited, so she's like going crazy with it. She's all in for it. Anyway, she did 15 boxes. Wow. So she shows up with these 15 full boxes. She must have driven everyone in the town crazy. Not come door knocks, in they bring me. She loses her mind because she thought, because she got 15 boxes, they'd send her a little black child of her own. So she looked in the car and went, oh, I got my own black baby, I got my own black baby. And Des looked in the car and went, he's black and he stinks, get him out of here.
No, really?
Yeah.
Nice introduction.
He's black and he stinks. In fact, I think the story goes, Maureen told me the story, it goes the other way around. That I think Des starts by saying he's black, get him out of here. And Maureen says, that must be my baby. They sent me from Biafra, which is just unbelievable.
If you don't mind me, how did you end up in orphanages?
Well, it's funny because my story of getting in is a strange one. So my mother, I'm her second child. Right. So I've got an elder brother whose name is Stephen, who I've not met before, but he's 18 months my senior. So when I was born, when he was born, he was taken into care at the Crusader Rescue. When I was born, what my mother then did was just wait for this. So she decides, I don't know how this works in someone's head, right? But she goes, I think my prospects with the other one are better than this one. So she goes down to the Crusader Rescue and says to them, you know that child I gave you 18 months ago? They went, yeah. She goes, well, can I swap him with this new one? And they went, whoa. I guess. So as long as he's baptized, fine. So that's exactly what happens. So and it's insane because have you ever read your files from?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And that's a moment, isn't it, when you start sitting. Well, when I'm reading this chronology of this story, I'm going, it's all documented, and you're going, what?
Yeah.
What?
But it's no rhyme or reason to this decision you've ever found out.
Don't know. So the only thing I don't know, I can only kind of guess.
Your father is.
So I have a Jamaican father, don't know who he is. This Irish mother, don't know who she is.
Right.
They put me into the orphanage. They put me into what was known as the Crusade of Rescue for Destitute Children, which I always found.
They used to love calling them that, didn't they?
Yeah, destitute. It's not a great word, is it? And I think then what happened then was they used to have these little books, Paolo, and they would present these little books of children that are basically, it's like a Grattan's catalogue for babies, and they would send them out to all these good Catholic parents or people that wanted to foster children, and they go, oh, I'll have one of those. And so I got enough Green Shield stamps, I'll get myself one of those. And sooner or later, the baby
so it's a bit like when you order online from Tesco's and the lorry turns up, and here you go. All yours.
Except it's more a question. If she drops, I'll shop. It was a bit the other way around. But so I end up going.
So Jamaican father, Irish mother.
Yeah.
Right. And were you born in because Des, his mum went to a baby house or.
Oh, they used to have those mother and baby places, didn't they? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No. Do you know, it's really interesting because you'll hear a lot of people tell those stories about being those mother and baby places. That's a really interesting.
Funny enough, when Des came to stay with me, because I was in Crouch End at the time, his mother was in Highgate, which is like...
Oh, she was Highgate, was she?
Half a mile up the road.
She was Highgate. But hang on, let's jump into your story. So, when did you go into care? You're not born in care like me, are you?
No, but somebody told me, which I hadn't realised. I was actually in care for the first 18 years of my life because my mother arrived my mother was born in Italy, a place called Sorrento, and she, in 1948, met a soldier called Hewitt, and they went to South Africa and got married, and then went and ended up in Croydon.
Okay.
And they had two children, Francesca and Nina. And my mother then had a breakdown in 1952, and she was put into a mental hospital in Coulsdon, Surrey. Horrible place. Huge.
Do you know I used to live there? I know exactly where that is. Yes.
Do you know the hospital? It was on top of the hill.
I know exactly. We used to live on top of the hill.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a bit scary. But your mother was there.
Yeah, she was there. She was there for most of her life.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It was awful. Well, anyway, so this is how bad it was in that place. In 1957, she either slept or was assaulted or something, but she got pregnant, right? And I know who did it as well. And in May, June, July, right? She's out here with me. And do you know what the hospitals think? Oh, she's Italian. They put on weight.
No way.
Yeah, I read it in the files. We thought, she's put on a lot of weight.
You've got to be joking me.
It was only a month before I was born. Somebody went, hang on a sec. That's not Weight Watchers we need for this.
She's going to lose this weight very quickly in about a month.
Yeah. So I was born July 11th, 58. And then after 2 days, I was taken away. And I was put into a nursery place. It's funny, in Woking. It was actually in Woking. Really weird. Nearly opposite the primary school I would end up going to.
You kidding me?
Yeah, it's mental. And when I was 4 years old, this woman came in called Mrs. Kiernan, and she went, oh, I like the look of him, I'll take him. And so I lived for 6 years with basically a psychotic psychopath who was just... The thing was, Paul, it wasn't the physical abuse.
What was it? The mental, obviously.
It's the psychology.
Tell me what happened.
Standing me in front of a mirror, look at you, you're ugly, you are, you're useless, you are, you're stupid. You know, that kind of thing.
But for people that are kind of don't understand how the system works, you're talking, this is your foster mother, right?
Yeah. And I used to have a I used to have, this is the system, I used to have a social worker, Mr. Rowland, his name was, and he used to come. By this time, I'm traumatized, right? I'm a little kid and I'm being assaulted physically and psychologically, and I can't talk. So I'm sitting there like this. He spends about 5 minutes with me and an hour with her. You know, she gets free therapy sessions, and you know,
joking,
yeah. So then, when I was 10, I did a really terrible thing.
Go on.
I went swimming after school. She told me you're not allowed to go swimming after school, and I went swimming after school, and she discovered my wet towel and swimming trunks.
And what happened?
She put me into care. She called up the social worker.
No way.
Yeah, I've had enough of this child. By this time, she's already got 3 more on the firm: Elizabeth, Caroline, and Andrew.
Did you ever keep contact with those children?
No, yeah. So anyway, I then went to Burbank Children's Home in Woking, Surrey.
So was that an upgrade for you?
Oh, big time.
Really? Really?
Once I got used to Burbank, I suddenly realised nobody's locking me in cupboards. Nobody's standing me in front of mirrors and telling me how. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I met Des.
How did you said that? See, I remember when we first spoke, and I was like, I'm so confused because the story I remember. This is how I remember. So we're now 1969, I guess it must have been. Yeah, so 1969. And what had happened is that our mother. Well, that was a whole other story because I was there from when I was 3 months old. So I absolutely thought this lady was my mother.
Of course, you must have done. And your father would have been.
Yeah, I thought they were my mum and dad. I called them mum and dad. Everyone called them mum and dad.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've always often said about that, the weirdest part of it is, it never occurred to me that I was coloured. Yeah. It never occurred to me that my hair grew up and everyone else's hair grew down. Yeah. None of those things registered in my brain. Although as I kind of start to retrace the steps, I can begin to see it. But the point I was going to make was, when our mother passed away, just before she passed away, we'd had this great big revelation in the house, right? So what had happened is Maureen had left, and there was me and Des.
Why had Maureen left? How old was she?
She's 4 years older than Des.
Oh, okay. So she goes out to work.
So she went off to join the Wrens. She went off to the Wrens. So we were there was just the two of us in the house. And one night there was a kind of knock on the door, and this really agitated woman had showed up at the front door with a guy. And she was giving out to our mother about Desmond. Anyway, in the end, my mother, my father was bedridden at this stage, so he couldn't come and deal with it. So the mother, she was perfectly capable of doing it. So she sent him away. It was all fine. Hullabaloo, kicking of the flower pots on the way out the door, slamming gates. It was a bit angry. But in the morning, we sat around the breakfast table, and I was like kicking Des under the table, going, "Well, you're going to ask, or what?" And he sort of looked he was really coy. He was funny, Des. He was strange. What he flowers into when you knew him is amazing to me. I read your book, going, what? So, who is this person?
Well, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. So I eventually get him to say, well, go on. So he says, what happened last night? So our mother says to him, she kind of she looked down. Remember, she looked down at this and she went, okay. And we were in our house, there was like the front room, the front door, come down this long corridor. Then you go into the sort of this dining room area, then go into the kitchen behind, into the scullery. And it was in this narrow thing. We were sat there and she goes, okay, last night your mother came to collect you. And he went, and his face just like changed. It was like literally the blood drained out of his face. He went, what do you mean, you're my mother? He says, yeah, Des, last night your mother, or Desmond as she's called him, Desi as she's called him, last night, Desi, your mother came. But it's fine. You're not going anywhere. Because, Desi, you are my adopted child. And there's no way anybody can ever take you away from me. Ever. And Desi just looked at her and was like, tears comes down his face, gets up, storms up, goes upstairs, him thumping up the stairs, he's going above us. So I'm sat there with my mother. Now, I hate to tell you this, but here's what I'm thinking. I knew there was something wrong with him. It's so messed up. I was sitting there thinking, yeah, that kind of all makes sense to me now because he's a pain in the ass, and it does make sense that he's not really from this family. So I said to my mum, I put my hand on it. It's all right, Mummy, don't worry. And so she kind of pulled herself back, and she started to literally hold back the tears, and she went, I'm just glad it wasn't your mum, because if it was your mum, I would have had to give you back. I was like, what?
No.
So she goes, yeah, she says, Desmond's adopted. You're just a foster child. You're only here on loan.
Oh, what's wrong with these people?
I don't know. And I sat there going...
Well, how did you, that moment, what did you feel?
I felt like, do you remember the story Chicken Licking? I felt like the sky had fallen in. I was like, what? Are you? And then suddenly I went, I don't know how you don't do the maths in your brain, but suddenly you go, oh yeah, my name's Walsh.
Yeah.
His name's Harrian.
Yeah.
Her name's Harrian. My dad's name's Harrian. Why am I calling you my dad? Why am I calling you my mum? What the hell's happened here? Oh my God. There's a woman that comes every month and she makes me sit in the parlour with her and she writes notes and talks to me about things. Who the hell's she? What's a social worker? Huh? What's going on? Why do they keep having these paraded children? I'm 9. I'm thinking, what is going on? And my brain was fried, Paolo. I was like, I'm so totally confused right now. So I sat there for a while and went, I don't understand. And she just went, we've had you since you're a baby. Don't worry. She won't come back. She doesn't want you. Oh, no. Do you want to stop talking? Yeah. You're really not helping. So fast forward. And so that would have been that winter. I might have my dates wrong about this. So if Maureen or somebody knows the dates and they hear it and they get me wrong, my apologies. This is kind of my memory. The father dies.
Yes.
So he dies, and really very sad. So he passes away. That story is interesting. So it was a Saturday. I remember it very well. So I get up and I was going off to Victory Park to play football with my friends. And my mother, who's not my mother, which is still really bothering me, says to me, go and wake your father, who's not my father. So I go wake him. He won't wake up. So I go and said, he's not awake. He's not waking up. She goes, oh, okay, don't worry. I'll get him up later. So I go off to play football. I come back at lunchtime. The lady from across the road, Mrs. Taylor, answers the door and she says, what's Mrs. Taylor doing? I said, oh, hello, Mrs. Taylor. Because I used to go across and read to her. I used to take my Bobby Brewster books over and read them to her and my Enid Blyton books. And she said, Paul, come in. Your father's dead. What? So, of course, he was dead. So, roll forward, and we were coming up to the Easter of the following year. So, Easter of 69. I think it's 69. I'm pretty sure that's right. And our mother's now been taken into hospital. She's had some issue happening with her. So me and Des go to the hospital, and she wants to see us both. So Des goes in first, and I can hear her. I'm listening, right? And she's talking. She said, I've made arrangements. Don't worry, everything's fine. You're going to the best school. It's all going to be absolutely, everything is perfect, Des. Don't worry, Desmond, don't worry. And Desmond comes out, he goes, she wants to see you. And he was really distraught. So I go in and she says, Paul, she says, I won't be here much longer. She goes, and when I'm gone, you're going to an orphanage. And I'm like, what? And my only concept of an orphanage was Oliver Twist, right?
Exactly.
Were you the same?
Absolutely.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to go and live with Bill Fagan. Are you mad?
Bill Sykes.
Bill Sykes, or whatever his name is. I can't go. So anyway, my assumption was that Des had floated off into the sunshine, into over the horizon, and was living the life around it. So when you said he was with you in Burbank, I was like, what?
I know, but Paul, your mum tells you she'd rather have the other guy back. Your foster mum tells you this guy's adopted, but you're just fostered. And then your mum tells you, oh, that boy's going to a public school, I'm going to pay for it, but you're going to an orphanage. What the hell did that do to you?
So it's still, I think, what is it still doing to me?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the great thing for me, you know, that now, I mean, I'm, 64 years of age.
Yeah.
And I can still hear those. I mean, obviously I've had to deal with it and grow through it. But as I've said to you before, I don't know if you never ever fully outrun that orphan shadow, you know. I think it's this, what it does, Paolo, is it just says, what it does to me at any rate, right? I've never taken drugs, don't drink alcohol.
What did you find though
I became an addict to acceptance. I became a performance addict.
Right.
So anything I was going to do, I was going to perform, because there was no way in this world you were ever going to say to me, sorry, you're not good enough. I couldn't have that. I couldn't have it. So I would go, and if I wasn't going to be the best at it, I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
Because I couldn't risk, so I'd never try things, because I couldn't try stuff, because I can't be rubbish at something, because I'm rubbish at something. I know what you're going to say. See ya. So I think what happened with me is that it kind of it's sort of hardwired into me, this profound need for acceptance.
Right.
Profound.
Do you people please?
Oh my God. What? I'm the king of it, Paolo.
We haven't done very well with me.
Because I'm in recovery. That's right. But no, it's the truth, that's taken me a long time to work out.
The people pleasing.
Oh wow. I mean,
how were you in the children's home? Because did you perform in the children's home? Is that what you're telling me?
Let me give you an example of how well I did in the children's home and how that people pleasing showed up. I had a guy. The children's home, when you're in an orphanage, right? For a paedophile, it's like shooting crab in a barrel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because nobody gives a crap. You can come into it wherever you like.
Yeah.
And I was groomed by someone when I was in the children's home. I was really good at football, and this guy came in and he used to take a real interest in me. You gotta love this place. By the way, just a shout out for Diamicis.
Yeah, Diamicis.
You gotta love Diamicis.
Yeah.
You gotta love Diamicis. Yeah, so what happened was that this guy literally groomed me, and I managed to speak. It was really weird, because one of the ladies that looked after me, she lives in Dublin, and I connected with her. I can't remember, she saw me in a newspaper or something. Anyway, whatever it was, I reconnected with her and went out to Dublin, we were chatting, and she told me that when that guy started to take interest in me, she watched my behaviour. She said, over a period of months, you became more and more and more and more affected and more effeminate when you were in this man's presence. And she said, I had to go to the head of the organisation, the orphanage, and say, that man needs to be stopped from coming here because he's grooming Paul. And they went, no, he's one of the the good fathers and yada yada yada, and all these brothers that come in and look up, because she said, he's grooming him. He needs to be taken out of this place and never allowed to come in here again. The moment he finally went, my behaviour just changed completely.
Wow.
Just went back.
Wow.
Because I knew.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Pretty Woman? Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
There's a line in that movie. I tell this in my corporate talks all the time. Richard Gere's character meets Julie Roberts' character, right?
Yeah,
and he says to her, never mind about what the transaction is for a minute, but just the dialogue. He goes, my name's Edward, what's yours? And she says, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. And that's what you want.
That's my story.
Yeah.
If you ask me, what do you want? Whatever you want me to be.
Yeah.
Would you like? Will you like me?
Yeah.
Will you take me home with you?
Yeah.
Will you look after me?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want me to be?
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart actually when I think about it. But I think if I took you from probably the moment my mother, who's not my mother, said that, probably through maybe even into certainly my midlife. Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
In the children's home, there's always a pecking order. Whereabouts were you?
Top.
You were numero uno.
Of course.
Wow.
It was a competition.
Yeah.
So,
but it's one you could take on and win.
Yeah, because the funny thing about the orphanage was, but the book I'm working on at the moment actually is with one of the guys that was my kind of nemesis, and he and I we had a really difficult time together in the orphanage, because when I arrived, he was the godfather. He was the kiddie, right? And he was the padrino. He was the next in line as well, right? So he was absolutely destined to go all the way to the top. Because his foster brother, was one of the big uns. So
right.
we said, say that generation were beginning to move out, and our generation was coming in.
Yeah.
So when we meet, Philip's the next in line. He's the don, right? He's the next in line.
Yeah.
And when I showed up, that was big problem because I was a bit like this is aggrandizing myself, but for the sake of the conversation, you'll take the point. I was a bit like Andy Dufresne in the Shawshank Redemption, right? Because I wasn't raised in the orphanage. I was raised in a home. So I would ask things like, what? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? I had different ideals and different understandings. Like you must have been the same, right? There are kids that are born into orphanages, and that's just who they are. Whereas kids like me, who had 10 years in like
civilian life,
civilian in middle class suburbia, I was like, what? Why are you doing this? Sorry, why is the lemonade made of powder? What is going on here? I just didn't understand it. None of it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And I was the one that would be very much be the one.
Were you good at fighting?
Not really. I was good
So
at
how did you get out of fights?
talk.
Yeah,
I can talk myself out of anything. I can talk myself into anything. I was going to talk myself out of anything.
Because you know whose strategy you are copying word for word.
Yours?
No, Dez's.
No way.
That's exactly what Des did. Des told me he decided, because he was moved around for a lot of children's homes.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, and he said one day he was put into his children's home, and I know where it is. There's a place in Surrey, the Hind, the Golden Hind, or it's a beautiful landscape.
Like Hind Head, where the Devil's Drop is.
Yeah, the Devil's Punch Bowl.
The Devil's Punch Bowl. That's right. There's that huge, great.
Yeah,
the Devil's Punch Bowl.
And he said, I knew I was going into this children's home, and I knew that as a sensitive soul who read books and I could not cope with a children's home. I would need a character. I would need to play a character. So he devised a witty,
erudite, all
singing, all dancing guy. So when he arrived at my home, so he's 2 years older, I'm in complete awe of him. He said this, he said that, he did this, he plays the guitar, he's got this sound buddy screw called Steely Dan. What the?
Wow.
I know
really?
Mark Bolan, yeah.
Really?
I was complete, but it was all an act. It was all a thing.
Des is a little older than you?
2 years older.
He's 2 years older than you. There were three things that would give you rite of passage in my orphanage.
Yeah.
3 things. Number 1, could you play football?
Right.
Tick. I was very good.
Right.
2, could you dance? I was all right.
Yeah.
Tick. 3, could you get girls?
Right.
I was good at that. Just saying.
You're an all dancing,
all singing, football playing. So that's exactly right. So I was the only orphan who had a wag. No, and so if you could do that, right? That was the currency. That's what we did. If you could play football, because football was everything in
it was everything. Yeah.
North London. Are you kidding me? And the day I arrived, Paolo, you'll love this story. The day I arrived in the orphanage, all the kids were out, right? And they were all out in Enfield.
Sorry, how many in the orphanage?
About 100.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's about 100 of them. But it was all done in houses.
How many staff? 10?
Yeah. that's your point. There was there was like 2 or 3 a house. So we would have like they were broken up into houses. So there was 10 of us in a house.
Oh, okay.
But we were all in like this close. So on the day I arrived, I'll never forget this. It was the 30th, I would say 31st of July, of the July 1970.
Yeah.
I've come up from Kenton, which is a temporary foster home I'm in. My foster mother's brought me up. I drive up. I was just terrified. I'd had a terrible time at St Bernadette's in Kenton, the school I went to. Really bad time because I couldn't work the magic. I couldn't make it work.
Right.
So I go into the home and all the kids are out. So I've got a few hours just to kind of see if I can catch it and get the feel of it, put up the Bobby Charlton posters and all the rest of it. Anyway, the kids come home and they all just circle around you when you're new, right? They literally circle around you, go, what's your name? Why are you here? Why'd your mum dump you? And then they went, are you a puff? And they went, what football team do you support? And I went, okay. I didn't know what a puff meant, but I didn't think that was the answer was yes. So I go, no.
Yeah.
That one. I think no. And then I went, I said, I got a Conker that's got 107 on it. And they went, no, F. I went, yeah. I'm saying it, show you it. And they went, yeah. And then this whole thing, and they went, who do you support? And I went, Man United. And they went, no, you don't. I went, yeah, I do, yeah, Man United. Georgie Best, got a poster. I've been here, actually, while you've been out, I've been putting my poster. You don't support Man United. I do, yeah, I support Man United. He goes, you fucking don't support Man United. I went, who do I support? They went, Tottenham or Arsenal. And I went, my second foster mother were taking me to see Tottenham play Nottingham Forest, beat them 4-1.
Okay.
I went, Tottenham. And this cheer went up, Paolo.
Really?
And I thought,
wow,
this is acceptance.
Yes.
I'm a Spurs man now. And I was all in it. It was hilarious.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that about them cheering you.
No, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly, because this reminded me, one of the reasons I really liked Burbank, it was the first time I was accepted.
Is that right?
It was the first time so what happened was there was this little gang, and they were all a bit older than me, and I wanted to be with them. I didn't want to be with the 7-8-year-olds.
And age is funny, isn't it? When you're in an orphanage,
yeah,
right? It's a massive deal,
big
isn't
deal,
it? Because did you have sorry to interrupt you, sorry, do you have the little ones?
Yep.
And then the big ones?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be with the big ones.
Of course.
I wanted to smoke in the boiler room, and I wanted to snog that girl over there. And if I got in the gang,
because you're my guy, you did both, right? Tell me you did both.
Of course, man, of course. So the way that you got into the gang,
you smoked the girl and kissed the face. Just don't work out what happened.
Yeah. So there's the back of the children's home, and it goes down a drive, then it goes across the main drive and into the garden where there's a slope. And what I was told was, get on this bike, go down there. When you go over the slope, if you stay on the bike, you're in. And if you fall off it, you're out. So I got on this bike and I went down and went up in the slope like that. And I can remember now just that feeling of freedom. At that moment,
genius.
When I was like 5-10 feet in the air, just wow.
Like E.T.
And then I landed, and I just remember thinking, please don't fall off.
Please stay on the bike.
And I did.
Oh,
and so I became part of the gang. And they accepted me, and it was the first time in my life that I'd been accepted. So the first 3 years of my life, I was first 3 years of the children's home life, I'm smoking, I'm playing up. Rob Woking Football Club, me and Jimmy Boylan, Rob Woking Football Club. You know, it's full on, because these are the only people who've shown me any acceptance or love, or you know. So that's why thingy. Then I rob Woking Football Club. We get caught. You
get caught robbing Woking Football Club?
Yeah. One of us. There was me, Jimmy Boylan, and Laszlo Molnar. Laszlo was at school. I was so jealous of him because he could go and spend the money. I had £11, like £11 in 1971, 72.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that is your Crombie and your stay press and all that. But I suddenly realised this when it really brought home to me. I was in a children's home. I can't spend the money. Because if I buy a new pair of shoes, they're going to go, where they come from? We didn't give you vouchers for them to go to Millets. You know, they're from that posh shop on the high street and I suddenly can't. I'm in a children's home, man, because I can't operate. You know, and we got.
I solved that, by the way. I solved it. Yeah. So what I do?
Go on.
We used to have to go get our shoes and play called Scroggies.
Scroggies.
How can the shoe shop be called Scroggies?
Yeah. What should we call the store? I know.
Scroggies.
Scroggies. Don't get them queuing up.
Yeah, we came around the corner. And we used to get these vouchers, and you get these shoes from Scroggies. They're like Frankenstein shoes.
Yeah.
You can't dance, you can't play football, you can't do anything. But the reason they got them for you is because they were like the children of Israel. They wouldn't wear out. You know, you could you could live in the wilderness with these shoes for 40 years, and your feet just grow with your feet. You only need one pair of Scroggies shoes. That's all you ever needed.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is a nonsense. I can't do this. I need some proper loafers if I'm going to go to school and I'm going to start doing it right.
Yeah.
So I stole the loafers, obviously.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I got quite good at it. So I used to get a few boxes. But then I found the place outside of the orphanage where I used to store things. I used to hide them. So I'd go out to
Scroggies.
I'd go out with Mr. Scroggies.
Yeah.
Go up the road.
Change your shoes.
Yeah. Jump down.
Did you ever come back and the Scroggies were gone?
I did. No, I came back and I had my Soleil loafers on. I forgot to take my Scroggies off. And I walked through the front and as soon as I walked away, oh my gosh, I forgot my books. Tearing back on the road to get me Scroggies.
Yeah. No, but anyway, I was too young to go to court, and then I caught pneumonia, and then they threatened to take me out of my school, and I really liked my school. Because those guys were great as well. I had really good friends at school who accepted me as well. So all my acceptance it wasn't adults, it was kids.
Amazing.
And, the thing is, compared to what I was going through with that psychopath.
That sounds insane.
It was just
What, didn't the
awful.
social workers pick that up?
So when I went through my files, in 1965, check this out.
Go on.
His social worker goes, get him out of there.
No way.
Yeah, he's too quiet. He's not talking. He's non-communicative. I can't get through to him. Right? Get him out. There's something going on with that mother. Right? She's domineering.
That is incredible.
Get him out. Right?
But no one did anything.
She was taken off my case.
No.
The next guy comes in, Mr. Rowland. Why my predecessor has said this, I don't know. He lives in a lovely house. His mother would very much like him to go to public school. He is enjoying, and I called my chapter this, the gracious art of living. Because it was a middle class. She had all these ideas about me going to Harrow and crazy things. And so I was kept there for another 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it got worse and worse and worse. Beatings and everything. She got madder and madder.
So remember, what year did you go into Burbank?
1968, April 68. Actually, I went to Woodruff, which was a holding home, August 1968.
68.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many of you asked me about St.
25.
25.
With 3 staff living in.
It's amazing, isn't
And
it?
I went back to Burbank, and there's 3 kids and 25 staff.
That's the truth of it.
And there were 8 of us in a room. And I showed the guy the room because they take
is the
around.
house still open as a children's home?
Yeah, it's still there. 3 kids and 25 staff.
Wow.
When I went back there, I couldn't get up the drive for all the cars. I'm thinking, what's going on here? And it's all the staff members with their cars. They've all parked on the drive. There used to be 1 car, Gary's. Now it's all. And I showed. Des was there. Me and Des went back. And we showed this guy the room. Said, let's have a look at the bedroom. And there was 1 bed in there. And the kid had an alarm clock and a radio and a CD player. And me and Des are going, what? What happened?
8 of you in there, right?
8. 2 bunk beds there, 3 beds there, 3 beds there. I was going to them orphans. They don't know where they're born these days. Look at this kid.
Luxury. Bloody luxury.
Bloody luxury. But you see, the thing is, when I left Burbank to go to London, I stayed with my good friend Pete Garland.
How old are you now?
How old am I now?
No, when you were going to stay with Pete Garland.
18.
18. Okay.
I stayed on for A-levels.
Right.
I was lucky enough that I was a bit of a bookworm, and I knew why I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to write for the NME.
But, yeah, that's amazing, isn't it, right? Because everybody knows you as this incredible music journalist.
I was very lucky.
When did you figure that out?
14. Enzo Sposito had a copy of the NME.
Tell me, how did you get a copy of the NME?
I'd never seen it before.
Introduced you to this more sophisticated music?
No. I mean, I was into music. When I was 5 years old, I heard She Loves You by the Beatles.
You were into T-Rex, you already confessed.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I've just got to confess, I love T-Rex.
They were great.
Bowie.
Yeah.
Bowie was huge.
Yeah.
A lot of the soul records that were coming out. I remember hearing If You Want Me to Stay by Sly Stone.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Never heard a record like it. Staple Singers. Rod Stewart and the Faces. So I loved music.
Yeah.
When I was 5, I heard She Loves You.
Was music a thing in the children's home in Burbank?
No, it's mainly me on the record player. With me and Des on the record player.
But the other kids, boys and girls in Burbank?
Yeah,
right,
thankfully.
Yeah. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So go on.
That's the late night.
That's the check in for the midnight hour. So tell me, you 14, you decided. Why?
Because I went into school and Enzo had a copy of this paper and I'd never seen it before. And I was like, what is that? And he said, it's the NME. I said, what's the NME? It's a paper about music. And I was like, what are you on about? I'd never heard of such a thing. I knew the Daily Mirror.
Was the kid from outside, but not what I would call a parish kid? Or was he?
He's my mate, Enzo, at school.
Like a regular kid with a regular family?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
he's reading the NME and I'm like, what? I just know the Daily Mirror. Pete Wilson, the voice of sport, that's all I know. So then I'm like, and finally he goes, you read it, and just shoved it in my, go on, you take it. And I opened it up and the light bulb went on boing.
Wow.
I thought, that's what I want to do. It's music, it's words, it's writing. This is what I want to do.
And 26 books later, you're still doing it?
Yeah. And so anyway, when I left and I went to London, to me, the children's home was behind me. I couldn't I couldn't face it. But as I got older and older, and I don't know if this is your experience, but as I got older and older and older and older, I suddenly started getting a bit nostalgic. And then I decided to write and I was very lucky in another way. I knew that I wasn't ready to write the looked after kid. I knew I wasn't ready. People, if I told anyone the story, I should write a book. Not ready. I needed to.
Why couldn't you write it?
Because I couldn't get distance from it. I needed to look at it and go, why was my foster mother like she was? Turns out she had a brother who got all the attention, she didn't. So she grew up very angry. Now, I couldn't have done that when I was 25, but I could explain it then.
Mm.
And
no, I understand that.
You know what I mean? You need to get distance from it to understand it. And then I thought, I've got to go back. I've got to go back to Burbank, right? I've got to face this thing, you know. It's been at the back of me all this time. I've got to go there. And I went back, and do you know what happened to me?
Go on.
I spent half an hour laughing my head off. Oh, my God,
beautiful.
That's where me and...
That's so beautiful.
That's where me and Des did this. That's where me and David Westbrook did that. I snogged that girl over there. First time I got drunk, I was sick here. It was just thinking.
And the whole place sounds like it was intact as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was just like the same old home. And I suddenly started realising that actually care had given me a lot of really good things.
Such as?
Loyalty, friendship. I mean, we were talking earlier of that guy talking about the family. Well, my family were my friends. That's who my family were, real. Because but one thing I'm kind of surprised about is that you said that when the kids surrounded you, they said, "Why are you here?" We never discussed it. I never said to Des, "Why are you here?" He never asked me. There was this kind of psychic understanding that we were all fucked, for a better word. And
it's the right word.
You know, we were all fucked, and we just had to kind of get on with it and do what we could do, make the best of it.
The interesting question that I was asked was, it's a bit more nuanced than that, because the question was, why did your mum dump you?
Yeah.
Which is a really strange question, isn't it?
Yeah.
A really strange question. Did you ever have a longing for your parents?
No, but I was again very lucky. I first met my mother when I was 10 years old. She was brought to Woodruff, this home I was in, and I couldn't get a grip on her. She was Italian. She couldn't speak much English. She was just like, "Oh, Paolo, Paolo, Paolo," you know, and I couldn't. And I used to go and visit her in the hospital, and it was just awful. I used to walk down this corridor, all these crazy people there, and I didn't know what to say to her. And I used to sit there, Paul, and think, "You're my mother. I'm meant to love you, but I can't love you. I don't know who you are." And it was just, anyway, until I found my family in Italy. I had this photograph, it had an address, and I went to this address and I found this whole family. Her brother's family. She had 2 brothers, their families, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one night I'm with my aunt, Zirana, and I say to her in my very bad Italian that I wish my mother had never left Sorrento because none of this shit would have happened. And she exploded at me. She went, "How dare you? Whoa. Your mother was one of the bravest women I ever knew. There was nothing here for her. She tried to make her life better. Okay, she didn't succeed, but don't you ever question that. She was brave, she was courageous." And I suddenly thought, that's what I've done. I was in a Sorrento, you know, not as beautiful because Sorrento's pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
But I was in a kind of Sorrento, and I wanted to, you know, and then I loved her.
Do you know what? That's amazing, right? And
did you ever reconcile with your mother?
Well, 2 things about that. One was I would have been about 35, right?
Yeah.
So there was a big thing. There was a real craze about just before we started leaving the home. So 1976, 77, there was a real push towards everyone wanted to go and meet their mum, right? So Philip did it, Simeon did it, all the boys did it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Because the thing was, they met their mothers and they were all heartbroken. It was just re-traumatized, right? Yeah. And I had this thing, the way I played it was that if I didn't know who my mum was, I didn't know what she looked like, she could be whoever I wanted her to be. So if I was feeling romantic about my mother and kind of a bit wistful about my mother, she could be some sort of gorgeous Irish queen. If I was upset with myself, she could just be witchy poo. You know, I could make my money. And I felt that was quite helpful for me in a way because I could play her out like that. But if I saw her, then I'd be confronted with the reality of who she was. So I didn't go in for no. So anyway, if I fast forward to about 35, I was in therapy, and in this incredible, I'll call it intercession. It was a spiritual retreat thing. I had this vivid kind of like open vision of my mother. And I saw, in this vision, I saw that her turn, I was in a cot. She turns her back to me and I could see her stockings, you know, do you remember those stockings they had with the line up the back of them? I could see that, and she had these heels on and she walks out the door, closes the door, and she's gone. And Paolo, I wailed and I wailed and I wailed. I was lying on the floor in absolute anguish. Yeah. And the guy who was hosting the retreat came over to me and he just sat with me and he put his hand on me and he said, I want you to know something. He said, she was a victim too. Wow. And I went, and I came out of that. Yeah. And then I went on a real quest. Haley and I started to go on a quest to see if I could find my mother, because I decided, no, I want to go and see I want to find my mother. So I went to Ireland, where she's from, Tubbercurry and Sligo. And I found out that she was raised in a workhouse. And I went to the workhouse where she was raised, and suddenly it all made sense. Wow. And I got, long story short, but I met a lady who met her on her first day in the workhouse. Oh, wow. She says, your mother came in with her sister, Mary. I wish I forget now. My mother's Margaret. Kathleen is her sister. She goes, your mother came in. She had this beautiful long hair. And she came in. The reason why she had to go to the workhouse was because her mother had died. So your grandmother had died. And in those days, my grandfather had gone across he was in the war, didn't come back, right? He was gone to work in Nottingham, didn't come back. So she goes into the care thing. She says she sat there in the room. They walked in, they put a bowl around her head, cut all her hair out. So she had her hair like a pudding bowl. And then she was there just with her sister. She lay in the bed with her sister, held on to her sister and just cried all night long. And then she said, but she had favour. She said, because the farming boys used to like her. And they used to divert some of the potatoes that were going to be given to the pigs and roast them for her. And she used to eat those for her dinner. And I thought, wow. Oh, Mama, yeah, I guess we're in this thing together, right? Yeah. Listen, we have to stop because I'm sadly, we're down on time, which is great. But Paolo,
you getting the bill?
Yeah, I'll toss you for it. Well, obviously, we're going to run, aren't we? Come on.
Yeah, I've got some shoes.
I've got scroggies. Scroggies. Listen, I've got to say thank you to Marco. And
to dear me.
Folks, whoever come into Notting Hill Gate, come to this place. It's a fabulous place to eat. So thank you, Tim. Paolo, we got to, I feel like we're only on our dessert. Yeah. We had the dessert, right? We'll start again. We'll start with the hors d'oeuvre.
We'll do a proper meal.
Amazing. So listen, thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
And for those who are watching and just coming into with the first time, this is But We All Shine On. We have some amazing stories to tell you, not just ours, but with the people we're talking to.
Yeah, we've got family in the bag.
Can I say Pauline Black? I have. I mean, really, come on. Yeah. We got Pauline Black.
You know, I put her on the cover of Melody
Magazine
I've heard about 4 years ago.
Never mind about that. But we got some...
You know, I introduced Stevie Wonder. You know that.
And do you know what he did?
What?
Until next time. Yeah. Bye-bye for now.